Welcome to Dark Horse Matters, the show about people, their passions, and their pursuit toward happiness. I'm Bev Matayoshi, your host, and my passion is about talking to people about their dreams and what drives them to make it happen. So today, the guest I'm invited on the show today is so amazing. He's one of my favorite people that I met here in Atlanta so far in the 7 years I've been here. I can't believe it's been 7 years already. But he is such a source of interesting conversation, and I always have such a great time talking to him. And I invited him on the show today so he can enlighten you with his experience of what makes him tick and what uh, just makes him passionate about life. And one of the things that I love about him is his passion for science, because I'm a science nerd too, so we connect that way. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Father Bruce Wilkinson. I love his faith and his love for God, and I share that with him as well. So welcome, Father.
Well, thank you. It's such an honor and a pleasure to be with you. Thank you for inviting me.
I love this so much. One of the reasons why I connected with you initially as well was because we are cat people. And, cat people are sometimes, looked at as kind of weird people, but
Yeah.
I've always been a cat person. I have usually she sits right next to me while I'm doing the show. I don't know where she is today, but her name is Fanny, and I love her so much. And and I know you have two cats, and I just love hearing the stories about them because they're like people.
Yes, I never, didn't start out as a cat lover, but I have become a cat lover. And two cats I adopted from a friend who her cat had a rather large litter. And so she was looking kind of overstressed. And I said, well, okay, I'll try taking two of your cats. And my two cats are Barney and Fred after the Flintstones. So having two siblings is they've been with each other their entire lives. And they are just they are really fun. I never would have thought that, but I have fallen in love with cats.
I know. Growing up, we always had kittens. Like they would come, and my mom would just we would just feed them, and we'd have so much cats running around our house. My mom did not like it because they would, make
Mm.
mistakes all over the backyard and stuff. But always had cats growing up, and now I only have one because I live in an apartment. But she makes me happy, and she makes my kids happy, so it's all good.
I think completely, yes.
So, Father, can you tell the audience a little bit about yourself? Where did you grow up?
Um, I was born and raised in Chicago, Illinois. Um, uh, if you knew anything about Chicago, I grew up on the South Side, which of course makes me very excited to be a South Sider. Um,
Why
uh,
is that? Why is being on the South Side exciting?
it's because there's a rivalry between the what are the three sides of Chicago: the North Side, the West Side, and the South Side. And the South Side actually is the largest of the three areas. It's also the newer of the areas. And so a lot of people kind of look down on the South Side because um, it's not where the Cubs play. And it's not generally, the basketball and hockey teams are on the West Side, and the football team is in downtown. So Southside doesn't have any of those kind of things. And all we were known for were the stockyards before they closed. But Southside's a great portion of the part of the city.
Yeah, I've been to Chicago one time. I was probably 14 years old. Like I wasn't old enough to experience much, but we saw a Broadway
Mm.
musical there, Miss Saigon. And I remember going to the Sears Tower
Okay,
and the Shed Aquarium.
aquarium, yes.
And they had like the taste of Chicago that day, that weekend we were there. But it was such a great experience. I really loved it in the summertime. I've never experienced the cold winters, and I don't know if I want to.
Yeah, that does. If you grow up there in it, you don't think much about it. But once, if you have never experienced it and you enter into it, it can be as literally bone chilling.
Literally, because I remember one time we had a layover. I was probably 9 years old at the time. We were on our way to the Philippines, and we had a layover at night, and it was like negative 19. No, it wasn't Philippines. I don't know when it was. We were on vacation or something. It was like negative 19 degrees. And that was the first time I ever experienced that. And it was only for like 15 seconds to travel from like outside the airport into the plane. And it
Mm.
was so cold. I was like, I felt like my teeth were going to fall out.
I, again, growing up, you never. We still friends that still live there. We always talk about the huge snowfalls when every 10 years or so, Chicago gets just a horrible amount of snow, and there you marked your life by which snowfall occurred. So I experienced two, uh, the blizzard of '67 and the blizzard of '77. And everyone marks according to, oh, yeah, you remember what we were doing then? And of course, in '67, and I was in school, elementary school, and we had to walk to elementary school because then no one took buses. And we had to walk, I think we had maybe 35 inches of snow within, I know, within 3 days. It was just, you know, so it's a legend. If you survive there through the winters, you can survive anywhere.
That's probably very true. This Hawaiian girl will probably never survive something like that. But anyways, so can we like when growing up, like in your household, like were your parents, because you're a Catholic priest here, were
Right?
your parents religious people as well?
Absolutely not. In fact, we weren't religious at all, really practicing anything. I grew up. My parents were Baptist in name, and they would admit it that they were in name Baptist. We went growing up. I can remember going to church maybe 10 times, all the way up until my teenage years. And I started going more to church in my teenage years, only because I wanted to be a Boy Scout. And the Boy Scouts, you had to go to church. So um, it wasn't because I was religious, but it was because I wanted to be a Boy Scout. But my parents, they weren't anti-religion. They just weren't uh, very big on religion. And I have older brother. Um, he definitely was not religious either. So it was kind of a strange thing thinking about talking about religion because on Sundays in Chicago at that time, on Sundays, most of the religious programming was Jewish. And so I watched all the Jewish program. I didn't know it was Jewish, but later on I found out because they would sing songs and Yiddish, and I would go around singing these songs. And my dad would say, "You're not Jewish." I said, "I'm not." And I would sing these songs that were on TV. But I thought kind of neat. But religion just wasn't a big part of my growing up experience.
That's interesting. Like I mean, I grew up Catholic. My dad was not very religious.
Mhm.
Hi,
Hey.
Fanny. But my mother was Catholic, so we went to Catholic church growing up. So we went to Sunday school every weekend, and but as far as I mean, yeah, growing up, we were very actually that's how I learned how to play guitar was through church. Yeah, I we joined the choir in high school, and it was funny because we were like the youngest. We were like, just, you know, eighth grade, ninth grade, in high school. And we were the young people in the choir. Everyone else in the choir were a lot older. But we just loved it. It was 7 o'clock mass early in the morning. but the piano music, and we would sing in four-part harmony. It was just so beautiful. And my sisters and I, that we learned how to sing, that through that. Well, in school we were very involved in theater as well, but yeah, we were very involved in the church growing up, and even through high school. Like a lot of my leadership experience, just going into college, like for my college resume, was all through
Mm.
the church. Very huge impact in my life. Um, After high school, I probably was not very active anymore. Like I guess I felt at home at the church I grew up in. So like
Yes.
when I moved to Los Angeles, I didn't have that community, that of that same sort. And it was so different in LA, culture shock and all that. I guess I just never stayed with it. But it doesn't mean that I don't believe in God anymore. Like the, my sisters and I, we were always, very faithful in that way. But yeah, I it's just weird. Everyone's experiences, are different. So
Yeah, the strange thing about, well, Chicago still is somewhat, it was very Catholic city. And the neighborhood I grew up in, must spend most of my life in, all my friends were Catholic. We never talked about that. They went to the parochial school. I went to the public school. The public school in my neighborhood was much smaller than the parochial school. So, I knew they didn't eat meat on Fridays. And I never knew, I never knew why. They said, oh, we just don't eat meat on Fridays. I said, oh, okay. That's too bad. We do. Uh, and when they would go to church, most of my friends, they were altar servers. So they had to learn Latin. They told me they had to learn Latin, and I was like, Latin, okay, that's interesting. I said, what do you do with it? They said, well, use it in worship around mass. I said, Latin. I said, okay. I was me being stupid. I'm thinking at that time in my age, I'm thinking it's like a form of gospel singing. I said, oh, the Latin singing. Okay, got it. And then I heard music. I said, oh, Latin music. Oh, okay, I got it. But it was funny being in a neighborhood that was very Catholic, but I had no clue about Catholicism at all.
wow. And so like I guess I just wanted to ask you, because everybody who's everyone's calling is different, everyone's experience is different. Like, so can you tell us, like, in your experience, what was your calling? Like what called to you to serve in this way?
Um, my introduction to, or I should say, reintroduction to church, because I had, like you mentioned, after high school, after Boy Scouts, I didn't go to church at all. Um, when I went to college, I didn't go to church at all. But my reintroduction to religion came actually um, after a card game. We were playing poker. My college friends and we were playing poker, eating pizza. At that time, the legal drinking age was 18. So we were eating pizza, drinking, and playing cards. And we, as you got a little bit more drinking, people started getting a little bold and making, oh, I'm gonna take all your chips. I'm gonna do this. So toward the end of the game, one of my friends said, okay, let's do an ultimate bet. And the ultimate bet is whoever wins this hand and takes the pot of cash, then everybody else has to agree to do something that the winner says. Well, I was real confident. I said, oh yeah, I'm gonna win this hand. I don't know if I had too much wine at that point, but I was just that. So needless to say, lost the hand. And the friend who won was Catholic. I didn't know that he was Catholic. So he made the bet, okay, everyone has to go to church with me. And I'm thinking, church, okay. At that time, I did not, a college student, all I wore were jeans, t-shirts, those kind of things. So I said, well, I don't have a suit. I don't really have a nice suit to go to church. He said, oh, you don't have to worry about going to wearing a suit. I said, of course you have to wear a suit. That's what you do with Baptist church. You better not come up in jeans. So he said, no, don't worry about it. So we went to church that Sunday. I was just fascinated by the ritual, and because I liked being a math major and an engineering major, I loved being things that were precise. So to me, this was just very exciting. But that opened the door for me to religion once again. But the calling came over a period of time. And to be quite honest, the one thing that really changed my mind about even thinking about joining a church was this particular parish. They had a free lunch program that they ran for the community, for the hungry. And when I went to the church the second time, this time by myself, because I just wanted to see what it was, if it was still the same. And these three elderly ladies invited me to sit, told me I had to sit with them, even though I did not want to sit with them, because I was sitting in the back, and they invited me to sit with them. And they kind of took me under their wing, and they were running this free lunch program. So they asked, would I be willing to come up and help? College student, I didn't have any money. Any place you could eat that was great, I was willing to go. So, but it struck a nerve in me about serving. It struck a nerve in me about seeing a community reaching out to people in need. And so I volunteered the program ran 5 days a week, but I think I went up there 3 days a week. And it just opened me to hear these people talk. Why they were doing it was because they believed in God. And it made me start to really think, well, what do I believe? And as I got more pleasure in serving, it opened the possibility of me, becoming more involved into the church. I wasn't interested in priesthood, but more involved in the church. And I think that's one thing that serving calling is, it's getting connected to a community.
Wow, what an amazing story, and how random. Like, you literally got introduced by losing a bet in poker. I find that so fascinating and incredible. Like, that life can just, throw you a hand, and then it could change your life forever. I
Yes.
I love this story so much. It is so cool. I think this is like the coolest calling I've ever heard. Wow, that's so amazing.
That poker can get you closer to God, right?
Yeah, right. I love it. Not that I'm gonna encourage people to gamble or
Yeah.
anything like that. Wow, that is so cool. So like, you know, just, over the years, I, I just like, your involvement in the church, like, is there anything else like that got you really even more involved? Like, how did you, at that time, serving was what was you were passionate about, serving people. Like, in what ways did you get more involved that, opened the doors to you actually, becoming a priest?
Um, the one thing that I credit, which would, I was by this time in Atlanta, living, going to school in Atlanta. And one summer, I decided to take some classes. But normally during the summer, you would find a part-time job and work. And if I stayed in Atlanta, I would have to find a job, and I would have to find a place to live. So as I was kind of mulling this over, I happened to just casually mention to the pastor at the parish. I said, oh, I think I'm going to stay, and I don't know where I'm going to live. If I do, it's going to be a problem. He says, well, I have a solution. I said, well, he said, you can live in the rectory, but you have to work the summer camp when you're not going to school. And I said, oh, okay. I'm thinking working in the summer camp would be fun. I never thought about living in a rectory with three priests. I never. what is that like? So that summer, I ended up living in they had a spare bedroom. I lived in a spare bedroom. And of course, some of my friends who were here, they were like, "You're living with priests? What's wrong with you?" And I thought, and then I started feeling kind of strange because I said, "Yeah, that is kind of, weird. I go out and to have fun, and then I got to come back to a church record." But what I saw was, particularly in the pastor, I saw him as the person and not just the figure standing up there by the altar. And, he had conversations with him. And that opened the door to think about, again, priesthood. It wasn't, how most of my friends who I knew were priests when I met, they were always said, "Oh, I knew I was going to do this since I was a kid. And I was an altar server and I did this." And I didn't have any of those experiences. So, but what I came to understand, was that how God speaks to us in ways that, most people think you have to be on your knees praying and God is going to speak to you, or you're going to read the scriptures and God's going to speak to you, or you're going to be in church and God's going to speak to you. God spoke to me with us, just laughing and living in the rectory, watching TV, talking about daily events. And I came to see that God works in everyday normal things, not just the spectacular, split the Red Sea kind of moments. And that made a big difference for me.
Wow, that is a very eye-opening way to look at it. Because, yeah, a lot of people don't think about that. Like, it's the splitting the Red Sea. That is like a really good way to describe it. Like, because when people have those aha moments, like, oh, wow, God's really like, there for me.
Mhm.
It takes that, the splitting of the Red Sea or something really catastrophic to happen and you survive, or something like that, for you to
Yes,
notice that, there's something out there, bigger than yourself. And
yes,
I think that is so cool that you saw it in everyday life. Like, that is very eye-opening. Because like a lot of people don't take the time to notice, in everyday life. So that's powerful, man. I love that. I mean, now it's starting, the story of why you are the way you are is starting to like make sense to me now. I'm like, because when I first met you, I was like, you are not a Catholic priest. Like, you don't act like a priest. You know what I mean? Like, you're so easygoing, and I don't, not that I don't, I guess I haven't hung around a lot of priests, but the ones that I did growing up, they're very like, the only setting I ever saw them in was, at the retreat, where it's quiet and we're in the church, we can't make a lot of noise. You know what I mean? Like, so
yeah,
talking with you, I'm just like, you're just like a friend, like, it just doesn't, you don't come off as a Catholic priest. And I just think that is so cool. And one of the things that I love about you is how you're you're so engaged in pop culture and social media. Like, I don't see that like in priests. You just don't expect that, and you're very knowledgeable on just everyday life and pop culture, and I think that's really cool. And I think that's powerful because you can connect to a lot of people in that way and share God, your experience in that
yeah,
way, to people that are probably not used to, or who don't even realize, like, it's a nice way to really connect with people, and I think that's really powerful.
yeah, yeah.
One of the things I wanted to talk about on the show was your passion for science, and you said you majored in college in engineering, and um, I didn't know that. So that's another thing that's eye opening for me right now, is just knowing, like, I just want to ask you, like, how when did you become passionate? How old were you when you knew you were passionate about science? And like, I know you love astronomy, and like, how did that door open up? Like, where did you get that passion from?
Um, the first time, well, astronomy um, came when I was in elementary school. And although, like, as kids, the um, schools, they would take you on field trips. So you went to the planetarium, and that was all nice. The planetarium and the aquarium, and and they had Science and History Museum, and most of that, all of us, we were just running around hitting the little buttons to see what it would do. But when I was in elementary school, my parents, they took us on a trip up to Wisconsin. And when we were there, this was the first time we were out really in the middle of kind of nowhere, or I shouldn't say nowhere, but it was not the regular city kind of setting. So the sky was just absolutely clear and it was dark. And I remember the first night I can't remember the location in Wisconsin, but I remember looking up and I had never seen the sky like this. I mean, I was just overwhelmed. I was like, what is this? What is that? I was asking him questions. I said, Dad, what is that? And he said, I don't know. Mom, what is that? I don't know. I said, I want to know what that is. And so they, for that Christmas, bought me a telescope. So I was in my backyard in Chicago. And of course, you couldn't see anything because the air's polluted and it's dark and it's all the street lights. But that opened my eyes to say, I want to know what that is up there. But what I have never seen before in my life. What are those things? And of course, it was also during the time of Apollo moon launch and space race. So, but they never talked about the stars. All they talked about was going to the moon. Okay, well, we're going to the moon. That's exciting. But what are those other things up there? So that opened my mind to want to find out. And I began going to the planetarium in Chicago. And I remember sitting for the first time and they explained that our sun is a star, those are other suns. Here are the planets, those things you see that don't twinkle, those are planets. And I just became amazed at what those things were. And I wanted to know as much about it as I possibly could. And it then developed into a mixing of my loving science and then also becoming re-believing in that God made all these things. And so why would God make all these things? And that's kind of how I opened the door in my mind, one to science and with my faith.
Yeah, my son loves astronomy too, and just the planet, outer space. He's just obsessed with it. He even like knows the name of the planet out there that's kind of similar to Earth. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, he's serious.
Yeah. And like there's this game that he plays on the iPad called what is it called? It's like a simulator of I forget what it's called. I can't remember exactly, but you can actually like pretend you're like standing on Jupiter and you can see all the moons from that point of view. You can like throw moons at the Earth, like you can do all kinds of stuff. It's crazy, and he loves that game. He can play it for hours. Yeah. So yeah, I just think it's so cool. Like I when I first met you, just hearing you talk about astronomy and science, and I'm like, and you're a priest, like that's kind of just it's a little contradictory. So I was gonna ask you, like, have you ever like gotten ridiculed or judged because of that, because of your passion for science?
Most people think, yeah, that most people, if they start talking that religion doesn't make sense or religion is useless, and then I start giving them my scientific talk, and they look at you strange, and they say, "But aren't you a priest?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "But this is why this all makes sense." I said, science tells you the how, but religion tells you the why. And you need to know the how and the why in order to understand everything. If you only understand the how, then you won't understand, well, where did this come from? Why is it here? And so there are times when, and then of course my science friends, they think I'm crazy. They think I'm friendly. Like, well, you don't need to believe in God. So when we talk about those kind of things, I say, okay, well, how do you explain this as a scientist? if you don't have a God, and they can't. And so, yeah, that most times now, people who know me, they just avoid they won't challenge me on any. But most people really want to know. They are curious. How does this fit together? How does science and religion work together? And they do. They really do work together, and they're not enemies of each other, and and particularly the Catholic Church. The Catholic Church has run the Vatican Observatory has been in existence since the 1500s. So a lot of times people will say, "Well, what about Galileo and the Church?" I said, "Well, that they didn't condemn him for the reasons you think." I said, most of the religious priests who were scientists, they accepted that the sun was the center. There was other reasons why they didn't like what Galileo said. So there are a lot of people who are people of faith who also do great science. And most times, the people who don't like either way, they won't talk to you.
Yeah, for me, I mean, I have appreciation for both, and maybe my mind is just not, that's sophisticated enough to really understand or question it. And for me, I'm just like, I just don't question it. Like I know I believe in science, and I think it's just so amazing. But with God, you just kind of it's more of an acceptance thing. Like
Yeah,
you don't need to see it to believe it. You know what I mean? It's something that you feel, and experience. And that for me, like that just it is it's something that I need, to make it through in life. Like you don't need to question it to the point where or explain it to the point where you get frustrated. you know Maybe, and there are people out there that are just so smart that they feel the need to analyze everything down to the little, but I don't know, when it comes to God and science, I both are so massively, huge. It's so huge that I don't know, like for me it's just a matter of being accepting of both. And
I agree. I agree. And even today, even most of the most widely debated theories amongst astronomers and astrophysicists uh, are really philosophical questions. For the one of the thing is how is there just one universe, or are there multiple universes? And that's really a philosophical kind of question that will never be answered, but it's one that you have to come to believe and accept, which is a statement of faith. And so when I talk to particularly people who are really learned in science, I'm kind of an amateur, so a real amateur. But when you talk to them, I said you have to have an imagination and faith to leap beyond just what you see, and that's what part of faith is in God. We don't see it at all, but you have to leap beyond what you see to understand there's something greater than you that is indeed there.
exactly, and that's why I totally understand where you're coming from. um like with your journey and your religious journey and your passion for science, have you traveled anywhere that really allowed you to really immerse yourself into these things?
Yes. Well, of course, one of the favorite places. There's two things that you visit as a priest, and then as a person who likes astronomy. You visit churches, cathedrals, and you visit uh, telescopes, and both are kind of like places of awe and wonder. So actually the Vatican owns and runs a telescope in Arizona. It's one of the largest telescopes in the world, ground-based telescopes. So they run a program. The Jesuits run the telescope and the program. So I went out there for a program in one January. Was absolutely amazing. I mean, They have uh, a whole facility with different kind of things that they have studied and on position papers they've written and talk about how this fits in, how does this point of science fit in with faith. So that was a very, very exciting. In fact, all in Arizona, there's lots of different places. And then the other place that I loved was in West Texas. That's run by the University of Texas at Austin, but it's way out in the middle of Southwest Texas. Beautiful telescope. And then, of course, here in Georgia, we have a great telescope that's run by the Georgia State University that's about 50 miles east of Atlanta. Great place to visit. And so whenever I get a chance to, this hopefully, as things calm down from the pandemic, I'm going to be going out to California. It's outside of LA. There's a program that they have out there that I'll be visiting to join in on.
Oh, cool. Yeah, there's a big telescope in Hawaii too.
I would love to go. They don't give tours to just regular people, unfortunately, but I would love to. That's one place I've never been. I would love to go there. Now, there's some controversy about the telescopes on the mountain, which understandably so. There's some tensions because of the viewpoint of that this is very sacred ground and it's not being observed. And
Yeah.
but they don't just allow up in Hawaii. They just don't allow anyone up there.
Um, the telescope out here in Georgia, I've never been there yet, but that's definitely something I would want to take my kids to go see. Maybe you can take us. We can go on a field trip.
Okay, when right now they're in COVID shutdown
Yeah.
to outside, but once it opens up, I mean, I hope you you have to go late, so they may not, if they can stay up late, maybe that'll
Oh,
help.
they can stay up late, believe me. If they have a motivation to, they will.
But it's a wonderful. They do a tour and do explanations, and if it's a clear night, you get to look through. They have three large telescopes there, but they can let you look through one. Great program. In fact, Georgia has a huge plays a huge part in both astronomy and aerospace industry. So this is a great location through Georgia Tech and Georgia State.
Oh, that'd be amazing. My kids, they're I guess I haven't really ventured out, much to really let them experience much of Atlanta yet. They're going out a little bit. I took them to the Fernbank Museum. That was pretty cool. We learned about dark matter.
That's a good place. That's a great.
Yeah,
If
so
they learned about dark matter, they know more than me.
I remember like it was dark and we were like, that dome theater, you're kind of leaning back and it's
Yeah.
dark. And when I'm in that environment, I just start falling asleep. Not because it was boring, but just because of the position I was in. And it was quiet and all I could hear was my son's voice going, "Why are your eyes closed, mommy?" Yeah, it was pretty funny. But I just, I just think this conversation is so cool. Just like hearing about, why you are the way you are. Like you're such an amazing I love having the conversations we do when we're together. Like I just never thought, I just thought it was just you're the you're a Catholic priest, but I just thought you were so cool. Like you went to Dragon Con. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
I was like, okay, you're not like everybody else. I love this. So thank you so much for coming on the show. I just love sharing you with everybody, and hopefully, this conversation will inspire people, to just really see things in a different way. Like everyday life can open doors to your faith, and just let your life go. You never know where your life is going to take you, basically.
Yeah.
For you, you lost a hand in poker. Look at where it led you. You know, do you still talk to that friend that that you played poker with, that you went to church
Um,
with?
Unfortunately, he passed.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, he passed. Believe it, well, he died in an airplane crash, unfortunately. But he did it when he got a job actually in the Clinton White House,
Oh, wow.
and he ended up um, on a diplomatic trip they were having with the secretary of somebody. So but unfortunately, the plane crashed and he was killed. So
Wow. Again, you never know where life is gonna lead you.
no, you don't.
So,
You don't.
but I just love that we met, and I hope that we continue to be great friends. I just see a friendship forming, and like I hope it continues. And I would love to go to that telescope with my kids, with you. That would be a really, really fun adventure to look forward to.
I would love that too.
So I'm gonna take the time to end this episode here, and hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you liked it, really just subscribe and share it with your friends, because the people that come on this show just inspire me so much, and my hope is just that it'll touch somebody out there as well. Okay, so thank you so much, Father, for joining us today. And thank you, everyone, for joining us on Dark Horse Matters. This is the show about people and their passions and what drives them to make their dreams come true, and, to just go after where life leads you. So take care. And until next time, be passionate.